Hello everybody, welcome to another video by Liminal Spaces Talks Music. So today I am talking about the album Call of the West by Wall of Voodoo. The album came out in September of 1982. It was released on IRS Records in the United States and a company called Illegal in the UK. And I really love this album. It, of course, has the hit single Mexican Radio, which is about the stations that were along the U.S.-Mexico border on the Mexico side that would play music that wasn't necessarily being played in the United States. It gave these, I read that they were called border blasting stations. It gave these border blasting stations kind of a cult following, because you could hear music like real rock and roll. You could hear very interesting stuff over those radio stations as opposed to the usual American stations at the time. I think they were probably at their most prominent in the late 50s and the early 60s. So that's kind of what that song is about. And it was a big hit. It was a big hit in Australia and Canada and the UK and America. It's their biggest hit they've ever had. It's the only single that ever cracked the top 100 in America that I'm aware of. And I don't think it's their greatest tune, but it is a very good example of what Wall of Voodoo is. Wall of Voodoo is this very interesting combination of this kind of craft work, repetitive electronic noise coupled with this very Americana, almost country western approach to music. So you get this very strange clash going on between basically Stan Ridgway and the rest of the band. And I just really love the way those two things fit together. It's such a unique and interesting approach. The way they use the sequencers that they had in order to just create these repetitive rhythms and tones that would just pound through the entire song, and then put this sort of country music / folk music approach on top of it is just, it's incredible. It's the strangest thing I've ever heard, and I really love it. It gives it this aggressive, bizarre edge that I really enjoy. The name of the band came from Phil Spector's approach to producing records, became dubbed as a wall of sound. Phil Spector would create a wall of sound when he was the producer. And these guys decided that they don't create a wall of sound, they create a wall of voodoo, right? Which doesn't make a lot of sense. Sort of fits the band, I guess. I mean, it is strange. It's very strange to listen to, but it really is wonderful. Now, Wall of Voodoo has two very distinct periods. They, of course, went through a lot of member changes all along, but the really big one was losing the lead singer. So a lot of people would say that the first period of Wall of Voodoo is with Stan Ridgway, and then the second period is without Stan Ridgway. Stan Ridgway, of course, is the lead singer, so when he left, and they replaced that role with Andy Preo, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these names. It's just the way we've said them forever. And I think Andy Preo is a great songwriter. I think he's incredible. And he does a great job with Wall of Voodoo. Far Side of Crazy is probably their most successful tune after Stan Ridgway left. My favorite album to buy from that period is actually a live album. It's called Ugly Americans in Australia. It's great. It's a great live show. They do an excellent job. They do a couple old tunes, but mostly kind of newer stuff. Really a great show. So they only had 2 albums with Stan Ridgway, and then 3 albums after that. So there's only 5 Wall of Voodoo albums. There is an EP that they released first with Stan Ridgway back in 1980. That was their first release, and it's really good. I really enjoy that. But that was re-released much later with a live show tacked on, and that was called The Index Masters. And if you've never heard Wall of Voodoo and you sample a little bit of it and you think, wow, I might like this, I should pick something up, definitely pick up The Index Masters. The EP's good. The live show is incredible. The live show's from 79. They actually formed in 77. Stan Ridgway had a film score business that he had opened up, and apparently there was a punk club across the street that he would go to often, and he just started hanging out with the bands that would play there, and he started jamming with them, and eventually Wall of Voodoo just formed out of that company that he had created. So they had a couple years to really tighten up and hone all the music that they'd written, and that 79 show is just incredible. It's probably their best release, but the weird thing is, Stan Ridgway, after he left Wall of Voodoo, really matured as a songwriter and a performer, and I feel like a lot of his later solo stuff carries so much more weight than Wall of Voodoo does. Now, I adore Wall of Voodoo because it's so unique. It's so interesting. They're very similar, I believe, to bands like Oingo Boingo, of course, because they're right out of LA, but also bands like Devo or The Residents, a little bit of Talking Heads, I feel like. There was just this thing in America at the time, this real cynicism that I think really comes through in kind of a comedic way. It's very strange, very interesting. Maybe even a tiny bit of They Might Be Giants. That kind of a feel. If you like those other bands, I think you can really get into this stuff. But Stan Ridgway became so poignant. A lot of his observations about life and his ballads and just really, really neat, beautiful stuff. Looking into Stan Ridgway's solo stuff is great, especially as it gets a little bit later. Right after Wall of Voodoo, of course, he had kind of a hit with Camouflage. I know that got some radio play. And all of it was very kind of Wall of Voodoo-ish right at that time. But as he grew and progressed, it's incredible. It's truly, truly incredible. So I do recommend looking into that as well. Also, he joined a band called Drywall, and it's incredible. Drywall is aggressive, crazy, blue-collar. It's incredible. It truly is incredible. If you like Wall of Voodoo at all, I definitely recommend looking into Drywall. It's crazy. I love Drywall. But that's kind of why I decided to focus on Call of the West. Because they had the EP, then they had Dark Continent, and then they had Call of the West, and then Stan Ridgway left. And you can see glimpses of what Stan Ridgway is going to become on Call of the West. So it's sort of like what I was talking about in the Wire video. I think that the Index Masters are the best place to start if you want to get into Wall of Voodoo. But if you want to see where things are probably going to go, I feel like Call of the West is just incredible. It's this very interesting tipping point for Stan Ridgway, and I really love that about the album. So I'm just going to throw out there real quick. There's a couple of tracks that might be a little bit hard to come across. If you get the Index Masters, you get the EP and you get the live show. Then you grab Dark Continent, right? So you've got those two discs. Then Call of the West, the tape version, included a song called Exercise. And as far as I know, that's the only place you can get the tune Exercise. So if you love Call of the West, but you don't have the song Exercise, you might want to look around and try to find a copy of that somewhere. It's a fine tune. It's really great. I feel like there's 3 tunes on the album that really stick out, and I'm going to talk about those. But Exercise is just fine, like the rest of the songs on the album. It's good. You should look for it if you don't have it. Also, they played a live show called the Second U.S. Festival. And on this live show, they played a song called Fun Zone that they hadn't played anywhere else. It's an all right tune. If you're really kind of a completionist about this stuff like I am, look for the tune Fun Zone as well. It'll be live, of course. It's from the festival. And it's good. It's a decent Wall of Voodoo tune. If you have all of that, I would say you've done incredibly well. I think you've covered the Stan Ridgway Wall of Voodoo time. Of course, there are lots of demos and other things that can be found, but really, that's the big stuff. Index Masters, Dark Continent, Call of the West, and then Fun Zone and Exercise. All right, so let's talk about Call of the West just a little bit. It's got 10 tunes on it, not counting Exercise, which, like I said, was only on the tape. obviously because it wouldn't fit on the record. I don't know why they didn't put it on the CD. It's only on the tape. That's very strange. But the second track on side 1 is called Lost Weekend, and it's the most Stan Ridgway, I feel like, of the album. It's incredible. It's just this beautiful tune about these two young people trying to figure out where they're going to go with their lives and how they're going to be successful, how maybe even how they're going to get rich, right? Just the big dreams that they have. It's a great tune. I love that tune. And then the third track is called Factory, and it's also incredible. It is very Wall of Voodoo, and it is a dark, twisted, sad tune. It's aggressive and driving. It's got all the sounds going in the background, of course, and it's just the story of this guy growing old who's been working in a factory all his life. It's a crazy, incredible tune. I adore Factory as well. And then the third one is over on side 2. It's called They Don't Want Me. And I'm not sure what it is about this song that I love. I think it's probably just that it's very aggressive. I really, really enjoy this tune as well. I think that Stan Ridgway was just reaching a point where he was realizing that life is a lot more than what he thought that it was. I think there's a weird point where you think if I could only get to here, everything would be incredible. And then I think you kind of get there and you realize, oh no, this is just one baby step in this huge journey that I have to take. And I feel like maybe Stan Ridgway had crossed that line at that point. And that's why these tunes are really kind of dark and depressing, and I think important for him as a songwriter, and really wonderful to listen to be honest. And the whole album is good. I want to make that very clear. You got tunes like Call of the West. Call of the West is a great song. It's this epic tune at the end of the album, and the end of Call of the West is just fantastic. You got Stan Ridgway in the background screaming about how he used to be somebody. It really is a fantastic song. The whole album is really great, and I do highly recommend it. I know we'll come back to Wall of Voodoo eventually. Maybe we'll just do Index Masters, or we'll do Dark Continent or something. But just know that this band it's kind of just an experience. It's this weird thing that I really think you can benefit from being aware of and listening to and kind of understanding what they were trying to do, because it's so strange and so unique. It's such a cool thing. And then hopefully you can expand out and you can look into Stan Ridgway solo stuff, and you can look into Drywall, and you can check out the later Wall of Voodoo stuff, because it's all really, really excellent. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit the like button. Make sure to subscribe, because we have so much like this, and have a great day.